Hi, and welcome to Lights of the Roundtable. My name is Suzanne, and we're going to be talking about Africa, the blockchain and technology and innovations going over there. And I'm very pleased to have Eric Annan. Now, he is the founder of Aya, but he started some time ago. He's a real trailblazer and tech entrepreneur. He started some time ago, and he was the first Bitcoin OTC platform he had in Africa, and he is now helping the new generation of tech savvy entrepreneurs in Africa. So I'm very, very pleased to have him. He's actually in Massachusetts, so it was easier to coordinate our chat today. And thank you for coming and joining us here today, Eric.
Thank you for having me, Susanna. I mean, it's been incredibly amazing being here for some few days now. And just imagine coming from Africa, especially in Ghana, where the temperature is quite warm, and getting to Boston and the cold, the weather, everything changes, and you just have to adjust yourself and be, I mean, it's quite interesting, but I mean, I'm liking it. Quite an interesting feeling, especially where you have a family that welcome you and makes your stay quite comfortable and wholesome. So nice to be on your show, and I look forward to sharing and learning and creating new experience and creating the story and narrative of Africa. Um, just by the way, yesterday I went out, wanted to get something, and I learned something very interesting, which is about the American systems, the system that works here. And I wanted to get an account, and I was like, "Hey, you don't have a bill on your name. You can't get a bank account." My goodness. Oh, okay. All right. I get it. I get it. I get it. So now, as an African, these things are real. And it just to kind of puts to your radar the amount of work we have to put in to enable these millions of young people that, without doubt, are going to feed the American as a country. African young people are going to be the next 15 years. America would need the services of young people in Africa because out of I mean, 3 out of 5 will be someone like me. The question is, how is the developed, industrial world like America supporting, preparing those pipelines to enable them benefit? Because the world, I don't believe in you against me. I believe that we need to create a new world where everybody have a stake that kind of amplify the humanity for humanity to live its fullest of purpose. So I look forward to this conversation. Sorry for that digression, but I felt I needed to share that experience I had yesterday about opening an account, and you don't have a bill in your name, so you can have an account.
Yeah, no, well, I can imagine that it's a little bit of a culture shock. I can see that. But listen, where are you from originally? Is it Ghana?
Yes, I'm from. So I'll say I'm from Africa,
Hmm.
and my state is Ghana. I pushing a narrative where, because I'm in the US has 50 states, nobody talk of, oh, I'm from maybe Chicago. Yes, he's from Chicago, he live in Chicago, but he's an American. So I'm an African. I'm from Africa. My state is Ghana, because Africa is 54 different sovereign countries. But the best way for Africa now, I believe, should be an African state, African nation with different states where we all connected. We can move freely and do business freely, trade freely. We don't have that. And I think the time has come for us not to see ourselves as Ghanaians, as Nigerians, as Kenyans, as Ugandans, South Africans, or um, Moroccans. We need to see ourselves as Africans. Then we have states where
Right.
we kind of do. I mean, we are comfortable, or we are our birthplace, which is normal. I mean, it's like everybody's born into into a family or a village or a town or a city. That's fine. But I'm African, And my state is Ghana, which happy to be in West Africa, an amazing, beautiful country with super rich culture, beautiful nature, and I mean Ghana is an epitome of democracy in Africa. I mean, I would say it's a model of democracy where I think many African countries are looking forward to learn. And yeah, we could go into it. That's all. So basically, that's where I come from. Yes, thank you.
Well, I want to thanks for letting us. I know that it must have been so challenging. How did you get into Web3? Because, our perspective is we probably do not have the right perspective of what your continent is like. I mean, we know we've always been fed with these images of severe poverty, war, destruction, famine, disease, but we never
Mm,
get to see the positive sides of your country, of the continent, excuse me. What propelled you?
mm. My journey into the tech world, into becoming an entrepreneur, was not just an accident. I feel it was an act of necessity because you wake up, you finish university, you complete university, and there are no available opportunity for you to tap into, right? And so constantly you're asking yourself, how do I survive? How do I pay my bills? How do I able to kind of support my family, siblings? In Africa, we are communal by nature. We are communal, we are family oriented. So it's not just about you and your father and your mother. It's about you, your uncle, your nieces, your nephews, your grandmother, and and that extension. And so growing up, Susan, was quite an interesting experience for me. I come from a very traditional home. I come from a cultural home, a home where there's chieftaincy, there's culture, there's tradition. And growing up in Kumasi, where I was born, and as an Asante, there are a lot of cultural limitations, and there's a cultural abundance for you. So you have to pick which side that fits you. And I picked I mean, at early age of my life that I'm not going to be limited by some of my cultural things. For example, you say, "Oh, why going? Why?" Right? I mean, I mean, you don't need to do so much. Your uncle is there. I mean, they'll provide for you. I felt like no, I need to be identified with something that I own myself. So as a young kid, there were not a lot of opportunity for me. So I was constantly looking for how to will I become better, will I become able to live a life that is meaningful and create wealth for myself, able to use the wealth to advance the life of humanity. And so that led me to kind of move with different space of life. I've seen a lot, Susan. I know if you want to share that, we'll not end this today. But fast forward, after university, I had opportunity to work with Huawei, and Huawei launched me to the world of technology. And we all know Huawei is a giant tech company in China. I worked with there for almost 4 years. And in the process, I figured out, oh my goodness, we can use technology to do a lot of things in Africa. And so a friend of mine, I introduced him to a business and he said, let's go to Nigeria. And that would be the first time I would travel from Ghana to Nigeria. And that's how my entrepreneurial journey started, really. And so in Nigeria, somebody introduced me to blockchain, crypto, back in 2016. And that will now make me become a real entrepreneur, figuring out how to use the technology to really solve problems that will enable me. I mean, realize my first, remember I had a theory of change. The theory of change was to make money, have financial freedom. But I mean, there are only two ways you can do that mostly. Either you're in politics in Africa or you're doing something that you may not be able to defend it in your old age. And I wanted to leave a legacy. My name is something that I want to protect, even when I'm dead and gone. My name is something that I don't trade. So I opted to go through the long journey of entrepreneurship. Because if I read American story, if I read men who built America, they built it from creating value. They were ruthless, they were fierce, and they never gave up. And I felt that for the first time, I can actually go through that same theory of thinking about an idea, finding people who align with the idea, and say, guys, we can actually do this. Because once you solve problem, the world will give you money. And so mine has been about solving problem, a meaningful problem that can actually solve somebody's need. And the person say, because you have solved my problem, take all my money and I become financially free. And then I can be able to live the life that I wanted to live. So that has been my trajectory in 2016. And fast forward, the crypto that I was introduced to happened to be scam, which I was naive. We got into it, but that gave me a leeway, a leg to understand. And my curiosity of learning, reading about the tech moved me to building one of the first OTC platform in Nigeria called Digital Coding back in 2017. We did so well. I mean, I was transacting and within almost 6 months, I had done transacted over $3 million in Bitcoin. That was quite crazy. I made money. And then in 2018, fast forward again, I co-founded another crypto company called Qubit, which happened to be one of the first in Africa to build. We built the first exchange in Africa. We partnered with one of the biggest payment company in Africa called InterSwitch. We were doing so well. In fact, it was safe to be one of the fastest growing and could have been, I mean, a unicorn within a shortest possible time. Unfortunately, it failed in 2021. The factors that led it to fail made me to rethink again my entrepreneurship journey. I failed forward, and failing forward was to enable me now say, okay, if you didn't have enough quality talent, people to work with, and that made you to fail on this giant stride that you made with your team and co-founder challenges, why don't you solve this problem for founders like yourself across the world? And that's what gave birth to Aya. And so Aya is not just a name. Aya, for me, is a movement that is shaping the narrative about African talent, about African entrepreneurs, early founders, students who want to be entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg, story, like Jack Dorsey, like Elon Musk and co. Aya is that story. So Aya actually means resilience and resourcefulness. It has a strong, deep meaning to what we're trying to do. And every African child wake up as a resilient child because the challenge that we face, if any American face that challenge for 6 months, there'll be chaos in America, I tell you. If you wake up, we don't have electricity, you wake up, they don't know what to eat, you wake up, internet is not working. In 6 months, if any child experiences that in America, there'll be chaos in hospitals. Because the amount of mental health challenge you face, but you don't hear that in Africa. So I see every African to have crazy amount of resilience. And now my duty now is how do we convert this resilience into commercial viable opportunity for the world to be able to have. So that's my story. And it's been 7+ years of entrepreneurship journey, and it's just getting started. I'm not tired. I wake up every day fulfilled because I know I'm on a journey to creating something that will be a legacy that will become a template that the world will look into and write stories around it a year to come or years to come.
Wow, kind of inspired. So, but I can see the challenges, Eric. I mean, come on. Africa, the continent, massive. You have stifled governments, regulations. I mean, I could just see it's an incredible story that you just described your journey. I know South Africa is in BRICS. BRICS is very much innovative. It's right in the thicket of blockchain innovation. And they're, just with the other BRICS countries, they're all testing different platforms and what works, what doesn't. And they're all trying to bring all this cryptocurrencies. Well, actually, cross-border payments, I think, is one of the easiest ways to go. I mean, but we don't hear enough. Is there talent? Do you guys have enough talent? I mean, Kenya is Kenya is actually quite a buzzing hub of entrepreneurs that are in Web3 and they're in blockchain technology. M-Pesa is one of those, I guess, apps that facilitates transactions, but it's all so new. So how are you dealing with this, Eric?
Oh, that's a quite interesting observation. So Africa is 1.4 billion people, um, with a whooping 70% under the age of 40, which for me is an opportunity. It's an opportunity because oftentimes people feel like, oh, Africa is just good for its raw materials. So you hear a lot of corporate come to Africa, mining gold, cobalt in the Congos, and a lot of atrocity happening, and the world is quiet about it, right? However, what the world doesn't know is these raw materials has done so much for the world, but the world needs so much more to move into the next 100 years. And the next years, I do not believe, I don't think we need so much of the oil, the gold. What we need is human talent. And Africa is rich in that. The only challenge is that in terms of distribution of talent, is it is massive. But access is what is lacking now. So just imagine you are a talent living in, for example, in Central African Republic, and you have barely you don't have access to internet. How do you able to trade this talent that you have? So the question is not about availability of talent. The question is, are we creating enough access for underrepresented communities like Central African Republic, Burundi, the likes of Libya today is in chaos. I mean, in Africa, the big five is Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, um, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Uganda, Ivory Coast, Senegal. These are countries that once you mention, people easily know because internet is available. People is some places are very expensive, but at least once it's available, people will find a way to get it right. But we need to go do more. So, Susan, to just answer your question, Africa has a pool of talent. What we do not have is that there's a trust gap. So folks don't have enough understanding of the continent dynamics. Because being in the US for at least for the last 1 week, what I know, you watch, I mean, the screens and all you see is things that Americans are seeing every day. And so if you don't have perspective of something, your judgment of that thing is based on what you know. And so the more we can have this kind of conversation, people get to know that Africa is not actually what you think it is. But Africa is where the opportunity really is. And that Africa is where 30 years ago China was. And those who are smart enough in America who position themselves in China's economic trajectory today are raking in the returns. Then it will make economic sense. It will make business logical sense for you to make a kind of a decision to be part of Africa's trajectory. And the world based on AI, every other technology we see today, Africa is at a point where we are not just going to be a raw material hub. We are going to be a density of human beings and young adults. Because if you look at the American army society today, it's aging. Europe is at peak of its age. Asia, Japan is almost, they are looking for, and so it's not a matter of they don't want to do it, but the point is that they have got to a point where they have gotten to a peak of their development. Africa has agile, young, knowledgeable cluster of human beings who are ready to offer services, opportunities to co-create, but the world doesn't know it yet. So all we are asking, Aya is trying to do is open up this opportunity access, create a basket of trust, because people only want to work with people who they can trust and they like. Africa has yet to explore. The world is here to explore the human side of Africa. And that it's not just about moving to America or Canada. I feel the internet has provided us a borderless opportunity. I don't actually need to be in America, but I can offer value to America. Young people don't need to be in Canada. They can offer value to Canada. So I think we have moved to a world where in the next 5, 10 years, America would have to prove themselves more to an African child to say, it's a win-win. I'm not
Mm.
here to exploit you. And that for me is a narrative that I want to be part to have this kind of conversation that the world has shaped. And we need to begin to put the human being at the center. It's no more about let's exploit this society so that we can make more. The more we do that, the less sanity we'll have in the world. I feel a new world where there's opportunity to recreate narrative of humanity and the human layer where we provide access for everybody to have what they need to be able to operate as a human being. And I think Africa has opportunity to serve the world with a massive talent. And I believe it's going to be an interesting future that we all will be proud of. Maybe I'll be dead and gone, but I know that Africa is where the world will be kind of moving to get human beings to serve their economies at large.
No, quite inspiring. So how are you dealing when, how do you get in contact with, or how do you actually put the talent together, even
Mm.
within your own continent? I mean, it's massive, it's big. I mean, I guess you sort of talked on a few points, and I was thinking of Elon Musk. That's why we now have satellites, low orbital satellites. It makes communication a lot easier, a lot simplified. You have companies like IOTA, Stellar that are providing that kind of chain and supply, I guess, help and assistance with payments and paperwork and all that stuff. And but it's still very, very baby, I guess, is not something that many companies are still profiting. It's just still very much in its infancy as far as that technology is concerned. But I can imagine, I mean, if I went, I don't know, maybe I'm so naive, but probably I go to a place like Ethiopia or I go to Kenya and I said, and then start talking about blockchain, probably the majority of people are still not quite um educated in blockchain. Is that correct? Is it just
Mm.
is that something true or not? Is my perception wrong?
Um, Thanks for that. So, according to chain analysis, Africa is one of the highest um, adoption of crypto usage in the world. And so Africa, I mean, the good news is blockchain is a technology that opened up to everybody, no matter where you are.
Right.
And Africans took advantage of that. And so today, blockchain, yes, a lot of folks came to the blockchain through Ponzi schemes, get rich quick schemes that kind of stored the confidence. But in the last 3, 4 years, what I've seen happen is that there have been increased amount of knowledge. Now it's not just about the crypto; it's also about how do we use this technology to solve native problems. Susan, believe in me, blockchain, as much as it's a beautiful technology that we all love, it has little or no use cases in this part of the world. If you take away, for example, the I mean the token play where people make money, ETF, the casino, um, the investment part, buy, sell. Really, blockchain will not dramatically alter American financial system because you don't need to think about, oh, how do I interact somebody in the US? I'm in Boston. How do I reach out to you in Florida? I mean, there's Cash App. There's different platform, ACH, use dollar. But in the frontier market, like Latin America, where inflation is on a high, currency is weak. In Africa, where currencies are very weak or depend on the dollar, which is kind of sometimes you're like, why? But it is what it is. I mean, we can't do anything about it for now. And we have to depend on dollar for everything. Then you realize that, oh, blockchain actually is just not another tool. It's a need in Africa, in Latin America. Some of us, the way we are going around it, we asked the question about how do you bring these people together. When we started with training. We did some training because we believe that we need more people to have the understanding how to use this technology to solve problem in Africa. The only way to do that is equip them with the knowledge to use the technology. So we started with training, Suzanne. We put up applications and we have seen over 8,000 applications come through Aya. We've trained over 100 and almost 200 people. But that was just for us to test whether or not young people are ready to use the technology. And when we realized that, we realized, okay, we have seen different communities doing the training. Let's now focus in helping kind of aggregate and streamline the ecosystem in Africa. So Aya is primary focus in blockchain. We are primary focused in Web3. We are primary focused in Ethereum ecosystem. So we work with Optimism, Base, Coinbase. We help Stellar. We help Stellar. First entry into Ghana with the CEO of Stellar, hosted them, organized a community meetup for Stellar. We've helped Stellar on their search program with a partner like DFS Lab. We work with the likes of, for example, ICP, in Ghana, and now we are working with Lisk. And what are we doing with Lisk? There's a massive need for blockchain application in Africa, from payment, identity, royalty, supply chain, health tech product, agri-tech. But the question is that there's no kind of pipeline, there's no platform that enable these young people to have mentorship, to have access to market, to understand how to build, go to market, build their business, do corporate, talk to customers. So Aya is now the platform helping these early builders, like you have in America. You have YC, you have Techstars, you have Conscious Venture Labs, different accelerators that write you $100,000 check in Africa. As a founder, Susan, if I tell the kind of struggle, the challenge I have to go through in the last 7 years, and kind of pit hole for, if I didn't have a purpose, a why, I would have given up, because you're hardly able to get $5,000 check from the start.
Yeah. So how does a venture capitalist, there's so many opportunities that you were talking about, and there's so much richness in Africa. So how are people like yourselves trying to attract venture capitalists to invest in talent in Africa?
Beautiful. That's what Aya's story is becoming much more global now, because we needed to start from somewhere, test different pain point, different challenges, and now after all this insight, we have aggregated. So Aya has a trade play. Aya has an incubation, which is 100% fully fresh incubation, where we incubate this idea from zero, from hackathon. So there are different hackathons happening across the continent, from Kenya, East Safari, Web3 Lagos, Accra, and Cape Town. After this hackathon, we aggregate the best ideas, bring them together, and help them refine the ideas and create that trust. Because the reason why folks don't invest in Africa much is that they don't trust the market. They don't have knowledge of the market. But Aya has built that reputation, global reputation now. And we say, we understand our market. We prepare these guys to have that global mindset, that global perspective, so that their solution is not just, yes, it's a local solution, but it's a solution that has global relevance. And so we kind of de-risk these early founders, give them the tool that they need to be able to present and pitch to you, Susan, to, oh, my goodness, there's opportunity here. Okay, you need 100K to at least in the next 1 year to get yourself ready. That is easier to write that check. It's not easy to get $1 million, but it's easier for someone to say, I'll give you 100K check that enable you to take off, do your MVP, get your list for your first, 250 or 500 users that will enable you have still this business or this solution actually have a market viability and can actually scale. That is what Aya has actually been able to do in the last. So we piloted on our own last year. We did it with 7 projects. And Susan, guess what?
Tell me.
One of those projects today that we piloted has raised zero funding, but because we took them through the process of building real solution and shaping their mindset, guess what? That startup today has over 70,000 users.
Wow.
And they just
Unbelievable.
got Lisk backing them with $100,000 grant. A year ago, there wasn't anything in the ecosystem in Africa as far as Web3 is concerned. But everybody believes that Africa is growing with crypto, especially USDT transaction is on the high. Why? Because people are using stablecoin as a hedge against their inflation, against their currency, the devaluation. Number two, to accept global payment. Number three, as a way to save, to enable them have their income not vanish through high hyperinflation in Africa. But it's not enough to use, protocols that are not built as solutions are not built. So now, beyond using crypto as a means of trading, sending payment to people in Africa easy. Now, young people are now beginning to say we can actually solve this problem natively by our own, enable us to be part of the global ecosystem. And that's what Aya has been able to achieve today. And after the pilot, let's say Lex is an L2 protocol on the super chain, and Lex is a major partner, supercharging with Aya, helping founders get them $100,000 check after they go through the incubation and they are able to prove that this has a viable in the market. Let's get them $100,000 check. Of course, it is a milestone-based, funding that they provide, but this is just the phase one. Second one that you asked us, we also invested in physical spaces because I believe that when people come together and they're able to have conversation and they are bored in an environment that is serene, that's where the magic happened. So Aya invested in a hub called the Aya Builder Hub in Accra early this year, and guess what? This year we've launched 7 projects from the hub. A founder can travel from Uganda, Kenya, come to the hub, stay there, and then launch the hub. His product and get community to give feedback. We've organized protocol and meetups, builder activation for more than 7 protocols. And this year, we also collaborated with a Chinese partner. They do this pop-up cities. We organized a pop-up city in Accra called Mu Accra, where we hosted over 100 builders across 4 countries in Accra, Ghana, for 2 weeks. And guess what? After the 2 weeks, these young people, we did a hackathon with a $27,000 prize. And some of the projects that was built today are in the market. One of them is called AyaHQ. It's a peer-to-peer decentralized exchange that these guys are building, and already they are scaling. They are in the market. So if you provide the right infrastructure, the right systems, I tell you, innovation happens. And that's basically what Aya is trying to do. We are not doing everything, but we want to focus in kind of creating that layer of that human layer, that infrastructure, and that trust ecosystem to enable young people have trust, confidence to enable them think, build, and solve problems so that they can have the global partner to say, oh my goodness, these guys are now building real stuff. Let's support them because we need to unlock capital, real capital to unlock the African token economy. And that's basically what AI has achieved in the last 1 year. And going to 2025, we're expanding our incubation and builder program. We are launching a builder hub in Kenya, in the coastal part of Kenya, which I will invite you to come. We'll be having what we call Zoo Afrique in Kenya next year. And the goal is to establish physical hubs for builders across the continent to be able to stay, live, and then solve problems on a scale that would be magical, create more solutions. And we are doing this in collaboration with Lisk. Again, Lisk has taken a huge bet on African builders. And I believe that this is a first significant milestone for a global protocol to say, we believe in the emerging market, we believe in Africa, and want to support African builders to solve problems using this technology such that there will be mass adoption. And I think it's something that we look forward in the next 5 years, the story will change, the narrative will change from being just a consumer native to more problem solving, centric, to enable the protocol to really have real human use cases. Because I believe the blockchain magic will happen when Africa token economy is unlocked. And that can only happen when we have infrastructure like Aya.
Wow. But it sounds like you have found the formula to liberate, or the young people have found a way to take advantage of blockchain, circumventing perhaps some other regulations or something, because I feel from what your narrative is and from what I've read, the stifleness of banking in various countries in Africa, they don't let that kind of freedom. So it seems like you have all very wittily sort of circumvented and be able to take things on your own and be able to produce, amazing things without really depending, because I think there's a real gap or trust, no trust or little trust between the political environment of a country versus the entrepreneurial part of society. Am I missing something? Is it true?
You are just spot on. So again, the same way, if you are in Europe, you don't need to think about, oh, how do I trade with somebody from Germany to, let's say, Spain or Belgium? The same thing happened in America. That is not the story or the, the reality for an average African.
Mm,
Look, I live in Ghana. It's just 4 hours or less drive from Ghana to the capital city of Togo, Lomé. But Susan, for over 70 years or 60 years plus since Ghana had its independence and Togo had its independence, it has never been easy, straightforward to be able to send money from Ghana to Togo to today.
yeah,
Same applies to Ghana to Kenya. Same applies from Zimbabwe to South Africa, which is a border, unless you use a human being.
right.
That kind of reality is not same for somebody in America. So one is you meet an American and say, oh, it's difficult to sell money. That is not a problem. That's like, no, I mean, how? How can this be possible? But that American has never experienced that. From the day he was born, he doesn't have to think about how do I send money from New York to somebody in Alabama. That is not a problem. But that is a nightmare for every African, 1.4 billion people. But guess what? That's not a problem. It is more of a political problem. Political than economics.
Mhm.
What has happened in the last 16 years with the invention or with the introduction of blockchain, Bitcoin, that has changed. Which is why it's not more about, oh, whether or not it's acceptable or more it's legal or do we regulate it? Well, whether you regulate or you don't regulate, folks have found a means to be able to interact with their folks. Because I have friends in Kenya, people have friends in Nigeria, and with the internet, you don't need permission to, to be able to express yourself, express your love with somebody. And I think that's what we have learned. And that's one of the reasons why folks think that we are poor. We are not poor. We have all the resources in this world. We have the human manpower. We have the natural resource. We are not poor. As an African, I don't see myself being poor. The reason why I feel I'm poor is that I don't have access to these basic tools to enable me activate my economic potential. And blockchain is solving and doing exactly what I've lacked in my world. And so we don't need anybody's permission. What we are doing is that we are not doing anything to also infringe on the existing legal framework. We want to work with government across the continent to enable them see opportunity that their people have lacked. 1.4 billion people are lacking opportunity to trade among themselves. 1.4 billion people are lacking opportunity to travel with ease. Why is it easier for an European to travel from Germany to Switzerland? Why should it be difficult for African in 21st century? For crying out loud, why should it be difficult to move from Ghana to South Africa or from South Africa to Morocco? Why?
Yeah.
So blockchain is helping us on kind of remove all these artificial boundaries, artificial limitations that makes us look like we are poor. We actually very rich. We are very, very wealthy. We have abundance. And blockchain, for me, for the first time in the world, we have an opportunity to express these bottlenecks in a way, a manner that kind of create abundance for all. And I think Africa will be a continent that will unlock wealth for everybody to enjoy. And blockchain will do that, exactly that, because I don't have to think it today. How do I send money from, from my wallet to somebody that is working for me in Kenya? Right? It is no more something I have to think about. Do you know how it feels to not have to think about that? So that I will use that thinking opportunity to think about something that I can do to actually unlock economic value. And that's what has made America successful. But people don't need to think about how do I travel from New York to Boston. People don't need to think about how do I send money from Boston to Atlanta. You don't need to think about that. You need to think about how do I actually go to work, solve this problem so that I can get paid. So
Yeah.
the moment we remove that thinking from an average African child, that child will be unstoppable, will be limitless, will be abundant creator. And that's where I believe for the first time, you will not see a lot of African young people try to travel from on the Mediterranean Sea in search of a mirage, in search of an illusion of a better economic opportunity in Europe or in America. I think the internet, the blockchain has given opportunity to, to kind of, um, I will not say equity, I will say be able to rewrite the economic disparities we have today in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Disparities is a good descriptive word, I would say. I think that this is going to also resolve a lot of problems, not only in Africa, but in other parts of the world, like Micronesia, other parts of the world that have also experienced that for decades. Now, as far as the one last point, um, what do you think? Is blockchain going to be something taught in schools at a younger age? Do you think this is going to be a massive adoption? Do you see a trend going on um, in the educational system with trying to uplift and motivate kids? I mean, I could see space, future space astronauts, and I mean, there's so much potential because blockchain not only opens up frontiers here on Earth, but it also launches the, I guess, imagination of kids to actually explore other places and harness, for example, energy elsewhere that is not in the ground, but maybe up in space. I mean, I could imagine a lot of wonderful things coming out.
I'm smiling. I'm smiling. We're already doing this. I believe those that will really build the new world that we all have. It doesn't matter whether you are an American child or you are a Chinese child or you are a child from India or a child from Africa. I think the new world will be a world of borderless. And when I say borderless, is I'm speaking with you, Susan. We've never met, but internet creates opportunity for you and I to have a conversation through a referrer. Who referred me is Diane from SDF. Why? She traveled to Ghana and I was recommended to host her, give her, I mean, show her around. And she was on a mission for Stella. And we didn't see any competition. We didn't see, oh, because we don't work with Stella. For us, it's all about bridging the gap, creating an experience. But the blockchain do not discriminate, right? We are in a decentralized world. You can engage. You belong to a global community. And that kind of experience today, I'm engaging you. I've never met you in person, but the internet has a way to kind of remove all the boundaries, all the layers. And I see the future where even we have developed the internet in a way and manner that people will not even know that they are Ghanaians or they are Africans or they are Americans. All they know is that there's value, and value doesn't know whether you're black or you're white. Value is value. So long as value can be created and be shown, people will be gravitated towards that value. And for that, we have started what we call the impact mission in our various hubs. So we start in Accra, where in the community we find ourselves, we go to schools, we bring the students into the hub, and they introduce them to general technology space, and then specifically layer it to blockchain, that this is the future, and begin to think about it. How do I position myself? What problem do I find in my home that I can use blockchain to solve and make me money? So we have started teaching these children, in this case, about financial literacy, which I believe the Jewish have it right, inculcating their culture. So Aya has taken as one of our public good mandate. We don't charge for this. These children, they walk into our hub, they can stay as far as they want to stay, and then get to learn. Ask the right questions, get mentors. We are teaching children how to write code, how to learn programming, and all this. We are doing all this for free. Why? Because we need these children to adopt this knowledge early, so that they will become those that will solve fundamental problems commercially, so that we can recreate a new economic systems that enable them to function on a global level. And that we are already doing that. And I see it becoming more like something that spread across the continent, but the more young people have the right information, consume the right knowledge, I tell you, there's going to be abundance of skilled talent that can solve real problems. Because the more we can solve the world problem, the easier and efficient life becomes, and people can be more productive. And that, for me, is kind of a fundamental human right. The internet is no more a nice to have; it's a fundamental human right. And how do you leverage the internet? Is by giving this knowledge back to these children with the right incentive, right atmosphere, and Aya is doing that as a free public service. And I believe we need support from donor fund, institution to enable us expand this kind of mission beyond the commercial. Because don't charge for this. We are a profit organization. We are not NGO. Aya incubation is a purely commercial driven. Aya has a Velocity 8, which build MVP, build solution technology for founders across the world. You talk to us, we build your technology stack for you in 8 weeks, depending on the scope. We also have what we call the Aya Lab, which is an end-to-end hackathon platform that we build for African builders to show their proof of work and build their global reputation. All these things are commercially driven, but the young people, we believe they are the future. They don't have the money to pay, so we provide all this knowledge base for them for free, and we hope to expand across the continent. And I believe the world will benefit from this kind of initiative.
Wow. Yeah. Well, so you think that, you have to build talent, and it takes a few generations, well, at least 3 or 4 years to build talent and to get incubation going. So I guess you're looking into 2030 and beyond to see a lot of that fruits of your labor and hard work coming through in a massive way, I guess. How many hubs do you have? I mean, how many people have you trained so far? And who do you have in your group right now? How many are participating in Aya?
Great. So we have one physical hub at the moment operating in Accra. The second one is coming up in Kenya, Q1, January next year. So far, we have trained over 200 people in the Aya University program that we started, supported by Coinbase in 2020. In 2023, that was super amazing for us. We started that one in 2022 August. We trained over 200 people. We had over 8,000 applications come through, but obviously we don't have the resources to train everybody. But we trained over 200 people. Today, in a builder community, we have over 1,500 builders sign up, build project on Aya Lab, over 80 projects built on Aya Lab, over 17 hackathons organized on Aya Lab, more than $70,000 in prizes distributed to builders on Aya Lab, which was just a pilot project just to test whether or not people are eager to solve problems through hackathons. And we've seen that there's desire, there's enthusiasm, there's interest across the continent. So we are revamping Aya Lab which is going to go live Q1 next year to enable us scale building, activities across the continent. We hope by 2025, before end of 2025, we'll have more than 200 projects built on AyaLab. We'll have more than 10,000 builders showcasing their skill, their ability, and building their reputation to enable them connect to the global ecosystem seamlessly. And we have incubated 3 phases of incubation with LISC, with more than 20 projects in the market that is viable, that's doing numbers and scaling across the continent. And that for us is ambitious goal. It's an ambitious position to have. And we have something we say, no bullshit zone. We just get things done. We only talk about ideas. We don't have time to talk about little things. We are looking to working with partners like LISC, who have total belief and commitment to growing the on-chain builders economy in Africa, which for us is one of our biggest mantra, growing the on-chain builders economy in Africa to unlocking the African crypto economy. We can only do that through venture building, through building resolution, and through this incubation program to enable across the continent, problem solving activity across the continent. And then, by end of the next year, we'll have 2 more builder hub open in South Africa and in Nigeria. So by 2025, we will have 5 builder hubs spread across the continent to enable us achieving our ultimate goal of having more than 100 viable builders building real solution in Africa through this blockchain technology. And I believe the need of blockchain is yet to be known by the world because Africa is about to explode.
Wow, what an encouraging, what an amazing, empowering message you just gave us, Eric. Again, let us know, when is it that you're having these, you're in, I think, Kenya. You're opening up in Kenya. You're having a new hub coming up in 2025. When is that happening? When is that event happening?
January 2025, the AyaLISC Builder Hub will be opening in Kenya, and we'll have the first founder summit happening in Kenya in January. And then in April, we'll have Zoo Afrique, which is a 2-week pop-up city experience created by Africans with our global partners. And it's going to be just for about 100 people, carefully selected global ecosystem players in the Ethereum ecosystem to stay together, live together, and rethink the African economic agenda with using blockchain to solving problems that will scale and make us all money, and we can all live and enjoy what we all create together.
Wow, encouraging words. Well, I'll put those events in the description below. Eric, it was a pleasure, really, really a pleasure. I hope that you come back and talk to us more about your not only your amazing journey in Aya, but also give us an update on many of these projects. I do believe with you. I'm very much I concur with you in much of what you spoke. I think that Africa is just at the tip to burst. I think it's going to open up its doors very much. I think that also in conjunction with what we see geopolitically with BRICS, that is enabling also that kind of freedom, economic freedom, and sort of bringing down those barriers, political barriers, economic barriers, legalistics within. I think that it is also perhaps going to aid a little bit on what your continent actually needs. So I really, really appreciate it. It was great to talk to you and finally meet you, because even though we haven't met personally, we see each other, but we've had conversations in the past. So I look forward to working with you also, hopefully soon, on other projects and empower the children in Africa in other needed places. So thank you very much for your time, Eric.
It's been an absolute pleasure engaging with you, speaking and sharing with you. Thanks so much for what you do. Your energy is so vibrant, and finally putting a face to you means so much. And thank you, and wishing you the best in the season. Much love. Trust and loyalty, as we keep on saying in Aya. For us, it's all about the human layer. And the human layer is something I could discuss and talk about the whole day. And I feel technology is without the human being. Humans is at the center of every technology. And the more we can understand from the human perspective, the easier it is to connect with people and be able to solve their problem in a way and manner that really meets them on their journey, not just solve the problem before we ask them to kind of try. I believe the human layer is the key to unlocking real economic value. And that is how Aya approaches every conversation that we have, our partnership, everything that we do. The human being is at the center.
Thank you very much. That's where we're heading.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.